Make real change. Make change real. The process is beautiful. Empower your mentality, make real change in the world. This is Michael. Everyone calls me Coach King. But anyway, we've been dealing with awareness. God's been dealing with me about awareness. And me particularly is discernment. Being able to discern, rightfully judge what's right, what's wrong for me, myself, creating and establishing boundaries, those types of things. But we're talking about the idea, but how does the idea incorporate into awareness? And so we left off with developing awareness, and then we transitioned into education. So the last video was education. It is basically, learning. Why learning transforms, but it's important to understand that learning alone is just information gathered if you don't apply what you learn. Okay. That's just simple. It's logical, but it's hard to execute. Okay. If more and more people executed on the things that they learn, we'd have a lot more people who are just better off. There'd be a lot of things that are in our system that would not be necessary because people are actually applying what they learn. So let's talk about this. Okay. So administration, sustaining change through stewardship, and why growth without structure eventually collapses. So growth without structure eventually collapses. And it's, think about it. If you're just building a Jenga tower and there's no structure to it, it just falls every time, right? Because there's no structure. Think about it's like building a trying to put like a toothpick. Like, you remember building gingerbread houses as kids. The ones that collapsed had no structure, right? It was just kind of thrown together. You had one piece sitting in the middle, one piece on the side, and you try to put a roof on it. And it's funny watching little kids try to figure out how to incorporate structure so that that the growth as they start to, the development that they start to have, right? How it actually starts to fit together. And what's interesting about that, and this is not in my notes, but it's a thought, is oftentimes that is modeled. So I remember as a kid, in order to get that structure before it collapsed, I'd watch those structures that were successful. So it goes back to having a support system that has already influence and success. They're already leaders who are doing the thing that you want to do, right? So for me as a child, if I wanted to add structure, I needed to see what structure was so that I could remake that and improve it and make it better, So yeah, that's just one of those things. So why does change often not last? Okay, that's a question. Why change often does not last? So many people, we don't fail because we're not aware. We don't fail all the time because we lack awareness. We don't fail because we refuse to grow a lot of times. Okay. Failure or success is not dependent on solely on your awareness, I should say. We don't even fail because we don't learn enough, right? It's not because we lack this knowledge base that we need, because some people are dumb as a bucket of rocks, but they're successful. Right. But that's not always why we fail. Okay. A lot of times we fail because we never build systems to sustain the ideas in our head or the change that we're trying to implement. We don't build the system around it. We build everything else, the program, but we don't have the sustainability aspect. We don't have the maintenance. And this was something that has been a big topic. How do we sustain the economic growth that we've seen over the years, right? From a global standpoint, how do we sustain our economic market share that we've seen? Or is this just a inflationary bubble from a monetary standpoint? How do we sustain that? Well, the key is to build the systems to support the growth that we are seeing in our today lives. So the increases of productivity standards, we have to put systems in place that we can maintain that level of productivity as a society. Okay. So what happens when you build these systems? You experience insight. Okay. People who put systems in place, they experience insight into stewardship, into the system. They understand it. They know it. They're like, oh wow, they discover things that they didn't think that they had. Okay. Another thing characteristic that happens is they experience growth in the system. Okay. Growth is in the system. It's in the system itself. And then they gain an understanding again. Right. So knowledge, growth, and understanding happens in the system that we build to sustain the change that we have. But you got to understand something. If there's no structure in that system, okay, it's one thing to build the system, but without organization and structure, you can put a system in place, but it can have some faults, right? But without the structure, everything will drift back into a default system. It'll just go back to where it started, right? And you'll be like, oh man. So a system without structure, that Jenga piece gets pulled and the tower collapses, okay? So this is why I created the idea cycle. This is why I believe that the idea cycle is so powerful, because administration in the cycle is not an option. That is, it's last because it's the lasting piece. It's the final piece that makes sense, right? Is administration, okay? It is the stage that determines whether your transformation is either temporary inspiration or lasting alignment with whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, whether it be your goals, whether it be your purpose, whether it be getting closer to God, whether it be belonging in rooms you didn't think you ever belonged in. It's aligning yourself there. But administration is the building structure. It is the structure of everything. Okay. So how does administration fit into the idea cycle? I'm glad you asked. Okay. Let's place administration correctly. Okay. So in awareness, we've been talking about awareness actually reveals the truth. Okay. While development builds your capacity, it builds my capacity, it builds our capacity. Development is about building that capacity. All right. Education sharpens, refines, gives you a focus, right? So when you educate yourself, you're learning a focus. You're sharpening your understanding. Okay. However, administration sustains. It sustains your alignment. Administration answers one critical question. How do I steward what I've been given so it doesn't decay over time? How do I steward what was given so it doesn't decay over time? Okay. Write that question down. Try your hardest to look at your system that you've created and ask yourself, how do I steward what I've been given so it doesn't decay over time? How do I manage? Can I manage this? Right? Scripture is entirely clear about the responsibility of stewardship. You can go to 1 Corinthians 4:2. It says, moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found faithful. Okay. So what is faith? Go back and listen to what is faith, my video on that. And it'll tell you everything that faith is and what it is not. Okay. Go look it up. Do your research. I'm not going to sit here on this, take up my time and yours listening to me, going back over something that was already taught. So please, if you don't understand what faith is and what it means to be faithful to something, it's a little bit deeper than belief. It's a hope, but it's more of a knowing. It's an expectation that you place on yourself, on God, on everything around you, the entire universe. You place an expectation on it that it's going to happen. So it's required of stewards to know that this thing is going to work, is what the Bible is telling us about the responsibility of an administrator. So if you put your system in place, you have to know that this is going to work, because it's going to require a lot of work and a lot of dedication, a lot of monitoring. In the business world, we call it continuous improvement. You're at that stage in the cycle where now you want to sustain it. You gotta keep cultivating. You gotta pull out the weeds. You gotta get on the ground. You've got to prune the tree. You've got to cut your hair. If you leave your hair wild and you don't do anything with it, it just gets all wild, right? Matted, all that nasty stuff. You don't wash your hair. Think about it. So you have to continuously improve the growth, the education, the learn, and the awareness to know when it's time to do that. Because we think in modern society, traditional management tells us that part of management is control. I'm sorry, but in today's changing world, we cannot be stuck in transactions. Administration is not about control. Okay? And it's definitely not about controlling other people. If you think that you're an administrator to control other people, you are going to be sadly mistaken. That's what it is. And the problem with that is when I was a young boy, I thought that way. I want to be a manager. Well, I don't want to be a manager because I don't want to control people. I don't want to tell people what to do. Well, if you have to tell them what to do, is that really administration, or is that just you? They need the control from you, right? They need to know what to do so that they feel like they're in control. So really, that's not control. That's empowerment. Okay? Empower your mentality to make real change. So I'm not going to do the work. I'm going to empower you with questions. I'm going to empower you with encouragement. I'm going to empower you with those things so that you feel good about what you're doing. Okay? That's administration. There's a difference. There's a key difference in those things. And it's important as leaders, we're talking about people who lead, to know how to do that, to see the value in doing that, to see the value in being able to, and you don't have to be the greatest speaker, but you do have to be able to connect with people. Okay? Administration is simply faithfulness with structure. Okay? Decency and order is how God models this thing for us. If you look at Genesis 1 and you look at how he created the world, he created the universe, it was in order. There was an order to it. He never skipped from 1 to 20. He never skipped A to Z. He created everything with such detailed precision and in order for us to model the administrative likeness of God, because that's how we take control of the environment that we live in, so that we can create an environment where other people can grow, so we can sustain this ecosystem of development, which is called social development. We can use our technological bridging to feed each other the nutrients that we need so that each one of us can grow together. And we sustain that with structure. The administrator is the person that provides the order to the whole thing. The whole system needs order, so it needs an administrator. Okay? So what is administration really? I think I dove into it, but at the heart and soul of it, administration is the discipline of alignment. If you're an administrator and you want to be the best in the world, you have to first discipline yourself from a personal development standpoint. There are things that you won't be able to do. There are places that you won't be able to go anymore. But there's also opportunities for you to be invited into spaces that everybody else can't be. So you have to have discipline of your alignment, and knowing the awareness comes in knowing where you need to be aligned. Okay. And so in order to discipline yourself, there are 4 things, okay, that we as administrators, if you have a system in place, these are things that you need to do, okay? And you should be looking for this. If you are following, if you have leaders, these are the things that you want to observe in your leader, okay? Because these are the people that have disciplined themselves with alignment. So anybody out here listening to me that is trying to determine, should I take the job or should I not? Think about the person interviewing you, if that's the hiring manager or will be your potential boss. Think about, what are they practicing? Dude, what do you see in their daily life? What do you see in their work? Okay. But even if you're at home, if you're a parent, these things help you run your household as well. Think about this. Okay. So administration is a discipline of aligning these practices. And these are the 4 practices. The first thing you have to do is set rhythms. Setting a rhythm, setting a routine, setting a rhythm, a pace to your work. Okay. It's all about pace. But you can't set a rhythm without order or structure. So you got to understand, what I'm saying is you got to have an orderly rhythm to your life. 4 o'clock, you get up, you read the word, you pray. These get ready with me's. What they're actually, why it's so attractive is because people love order. We hate disorder and dysfunction. So the get ready with me posts on Instagram are so powerful because that is the person's rhythm. It's their pace to their life. And we are so engulfed in watching other people pace their lives so that we can model a life that is rhythm. Okay. My rhythm doesn't look like the get ready with me. My rhythm is not like that at all. Okay. My rhythm is different. I move at a different pace, but I still have one. Mine is unique. It's not going to the gym right first thing in the morning. My rhythm is waking up, giving God some praise, thanking God for the morning. I'll make myself some tea or coffee. I'll start my son's breakfast if he's with me, and then I'll start getting his school stuff together, cooking his lunch. And then depending on the day, I'll start to, get prepared, get him to school, and then I'll go to the gym then, and I'll spend 2.5 hours at the gym. Then I come home, take a shower. I'll do all this other type of stuff. See what I'm saying? It's the pattern. It's the rhythm. Okay. The pace. Then I might schedule something. I'll spend some quality time talking to my mom and my sister, maybe my dad, depending on, who it is. I'll spend about a good couple hours talking to them because, being distant from, parents and all of that and loved ones, it's so important to make time and connect with them, to show them that you love them. That quality time is so important because they might be going through something and they don't know who else to talk to. Right. And it's a safe space with your family. At least it should be. And for those who don't, find time to connect with someone. Okay. But that's just my rhythm. It's not yours. But just think about your rhythm of your day. Right. Now, if you go into the workforce, what is your rhythm? You check emails first. Do you get your cup of coffee first thing? Do you say hello? Do you round the desks? Like, establish a rhythm where people can expect what they can expect from you. Be predictable. Don't be unpredictable, because it creates an emotional stability within the office when you are predictable. When we know exactly what we're going to get when you go down a certain road with you, that is healthy. Okay. That is a learned thing. It kind of segues into the next point. The next point is, or the next practice you should have, is establishing boundaries. Now, a boundary is not what you tell a person. Okay. Boundaries are what you tell yourself that you will not tolerate. Okay. Establish things that you are not going to tolerate, or like God. God won't listen to everything. Not every prayer and petition goes to God now. Okay. God will just reject it. He has standards. Okay. So establishing boundary based on the values that you believe are true, right? Not all information is good. Not all news is real news, right? So you have to establish those boundaries, okay? But not by vocally expressing them. I don't like what you said. That's not establishing a boundary. That's just you telling me what you didn't like. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do it again, okay? People are always going to push through your boundaries. Don't call me, text me. There they go calling you. You know what I'm saying? The boundary is internal work. Create those internal boundaries so that when they do call you, you don't have to tell them, oh, remind me, text me. Nope. You just answer the phone call or not. Okay. But the internal boundary or establishing that allows you to maintain that emotional control. Therefore, your ego and your awareness, okay, the conscious ego, okay, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go Google that because it's powerful. It's powerful. Your conscious ego does not take a hit when you establish those boundaries. And you want to keep your conscious ego up because that's your self-esteem. That's your emotions, okay? It's protect that. The Bible says guard your hearts. That's what he's saying. Guard your hearts. Okay? David is telling us to guard our hearts. Solomon then said, guard your heart. Protect yourself. Protect it. Okay? So that you don't fly off the handle and cuss people out. All right. The other practice is you have to practice creating a system. Systems are simple. We use big words. You don't realize you have a system. Okay? Where does the here's an example. Where do the knives and the forks go? In your house. That's a system. Where do their dirty dishes go in your house? That's a system. Okay? Where do you go to the bathroom? You've created systems your entire life. You just don't realize that you have a system. It's systematic. Okay? So in administration of your home, you've created systems. What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? That's also incorporated into the rhythm and the pace of your life. So those systems are so important. What are the systems that you've created at work? Okay? What are those things? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So let's go to the next practice. The next practice is maintaining accountability. Okay. Accountability is a very trending topic. And what I mean by that is people believe that it's their job to hold you accountable to things. I'm your accountability coach. I'm here to help you do this, that, and the other, right? Yes, we hold people accountable, but the first thing that you're supposed to do with accountability is hold yourself accountable for the things that you do. Accountability partner is a person that joins you with whatever it is that you're trying to maintain accountability on. Accountability is an internal thing. A person who is an administrator maintains accountability within themselves. So if I say I'm going to do something and a person reminds me of it, that person who reminded me is not the accountability person. I am. So accountability falls on me to say, I didn't do this. I'm sorry. Let me get that back. Let me do it again. Okay. That is a person who is expressing accountability. Accountability at the highest level looks like gratitude. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Thank you for holding me accountable. I appreciate that. I will get that done as soon as I can. What low accountability looks like, oh, why are you bringing that up to me? It's not my problem. Okay. A word we use is getting on with it. Accountability is about, okay, it happened. Let's move forward. And people we got to get to a point where we understand what accountability really is. Okay. Accountability is somebody brings a problem to you that you said that you were going to solve, and you may not have a solution. Accountability looks like, I'm sorry, I didn't have a solution on that. Maybe we can bring something else, somebody who's better suited for the problem you're asking me. I really don't know. And it's being honest. Okay. So after we practice these things, your administration, what has to be intentional now is your consistency. And this word is being used all the time. You can't transform without being consistent. You got to consistently go to the gym. You got to consistently journal yourself if you want to have that mental health clarity. You got to do. That's so true. But the more important thing about consistency is being intentional with what you're doing. Okay? The intentionality of it all. What is your intentions behind it? Like, if you don't have intentions, but you're consistently doing something, you're just spinning on a hamster wheel. So stop spinning on a hamster wheel. Do it with intention. Don't just go get a doctorate because it looks good. Get a doctorate because you have an intention on doing something with it. I'm not going to invest $160,000 for no reason now. That's a lot of money to be going in debt and you don't know what you want to do or who you are. That's crazy to me. But if you go in there with intention, and intention and planning are two different things. Some people, it's as simple as I want to make $350,000 a year. So I need this degree so that I can make that a type of money. Okay. For me, money is not enough. So my intentions can't be the money. It's got to be the work. It's deeper for me. If I need something so that I could work more efficiently, that's what I'm going to go do. Okay. It's about the work. It's not about the money, because at the end of the day, in order to make that amount of money, you got to be able to do that kind of work. If not, ain't nobody finna pay you. Nobody's going to believe that that's what you are capable of, because you haven't developed the capacity for it, because your intention was off. Okay. Because you won't want to develop into that individual that can sustain that amount. And even if you do get there and money is the only thing that you have, money is not going to sustain it. Money is not a system. It answers all the problems, but it doesn't put the system in place. Because what do you do with it when you get it? Yeah, I make the $350,000, so I'm gonna go buy me a $600,000 house. I'm gonna get me a $80,000 car, and now, just those two things alone, I'm above my yearly salary in that. Just two items, I'm way above my yearly salary. We do this all the time because we're built on debt. That's a whole nother topic. Okay, so let's go to scripture before I get on a tangent. So scripture links consistency with wisdom and order, okay? And that it's in 1 Corinthians 14:40, and it says, but everything should be done in a fitting and orderly way. Everything should be done decency and in order, okay? We've heard this. If you've been in any kind of church and stayed there consistently, you go to them old Baptist, old Kojic churches. Everything need to be done decently and in order, and that is true. Everything should be done in a fitting and orderly way. So fitting has to deal with, does it fit? That's your intention. Does my intention fit with the direction I'm going in my life? Ask yourself that question. Am I intentional about what I'm doing? And do I have order with the thing that I'm doing? Okay. So you got to understand that order, we see order, certain people who like don't feel like they're organized see order as being a restriction, right? These free spirits out here. I want to be able to do what I want to do. Yeah, that's fine. But you still have order in what you're doing. You still are making a systematic approach to it, whether you look at it from a micro or macro level. Now, from a big macro level, or from the micro level, you may not know that you're doing it. But somebody who can see it you realize you do have an order to yourself, right? You're not just out here floating in the air. you So order is not restrictive is my point, okay? Order actually is protective. It is your system that is protecting you, okay? What happens when you don't have administration though? The growth that you develop becomes unstable, okay? Learning is only theory, okay? And I talked about I want to move from a theoretical standpoint to a very practical, real standpoint, make real change, right? What I'm talking to you about is not theory because I'm giving you examples, okay, to back what I'm saying. I've experienced this stuff and I'm experiencing more things. I don't know everything, but what I do know is comes from living my life. And I'm hoping that you see this through your life and how you live, okay? The next thing without administration, if you don't have administration, your vision just becomes exhausting. You get tired, you get exhausted, burnt out, okay? If there's no order. Without order, without the administration, your innovation is exhausting. You can innovate, keep innovating, and nothing grows. You're not learning anything, but you keep having these ideas, these big ideas, right? And it exhausts not just you, but the people that have to deal with you because you don't do anything about it. People are like, man, here you come with these big ideas. It's like people who work in those Ponzi scheme systems. They're always trying to sell you something that you really don't need because they need the money. They might be in between jobs or they're trying to figure out how they can, become millionaires. And they've been sold a dream. They believe in the dream, right? But they don't see the order. They're not understanding the order or the structure of the system that they have now signed their membership into. Okay. And does it align? What's the intention behind it? Is the intention really is it to make money or is it to, you get what I'm saying? So administration protects your progress. It protects the progress from erosion. So you don't want to be doing things just to do them. And you don't want your work to fall apart. Okay? So you need administration to protect it. And that's all I'm going to say. Okay? And that goes in all aspects of your life. Marriage, friendships, everything. You have to have some order to it, some discipline in those areas. If not, it just falls apart. That's why the chemical love is so powerful. And that's why we call it the infatuation phase of life, where you don't see what's wrong. So you don't have the order. You don't see a need for order, but you do need order. You do need self-boundaries on things. It really keeps the relationship intact. Okay? That's all. I'm not a relationship coach. So here we go. Let's apply administration to sustain change. Okay. So there's 4 things. Each one has a scripture that help us sustain change. So just remember these 4 things. Administration requires, number 1, structure. Okay. Requires structure. We've been talking about this the whole time. You have to have some type of structure. You got to have walls, right? A city without walls can be, invaded by anyone. Anybody can come in. Disrespect your mama, disrespect you, disrespect your kids, disrespect the store, disrespect your business. But you got to have some structure, okay? Spiritual growth still needs practical systems, okay? The plans of the diligent lay surely to abundance, or lead surely to abundance. Say that again. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. Proverbs 21:5. That means structure turns desire into direction. Okay. So your structure turns your desire, whatever your intentions are, into a sense of direction. And the plans of the diligent, that means the ones who are willing to do the work, lead to abundant life. So keep going. Don't stop, but put the structure in place. All right. Number 2, administration requires you to be accountable. We already talked about that. Consistency grows where responsibility exists. As men, I had the conversation with my son. Dude, I'm trying to teach you how to be responsible because this is going to be important in your life. You automatically, as a man, I saw after being more responsible. I wanted to have a car. I wanted to drive. Why? The intention was to take the pressure off my parents. But also the intention was long term. I wanted to just have that independence. I wanted to live on my own. I was seeing dreams as a child about me driving. So that was something that I wanted to accomplish. So consistency grows where responsibility exists. I already had the responsibility, the desire to do that. And you got to understand it in Ecclesiastes 4, 9, and 10, it says 2 are better than 1. If either of them fails, one can help the other up. What that's saying is the responsibility is God-given because we have to be able to help one another. So the accountability is not pressure, it's support. So the other person can help you when they see you fall. But remember, accountability, you set the standard. Whatever it is that you may need, right? It's an invitation. When you're at work, it's different because they have expectations. And that's what they're holding you accountable for. That's different. But in your personal life, okay, you set that accountability standard for yourself. Okay. Administration requires review and evaluation time. Okay. What you don't review, you will drift away from it. Okay. What you don't review, you will drift away from it. We see that more in the workplace. Okay. So yeah, you might be on like 5 or 6 different multi-channel, multi-departmental meetings and committees. And whatever the committee doesn't review, we lose track of it. We say, oh man, we've lost the oversight. Oh man. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. So review everything so that you don't drift. If it's your relationship with God, review the Bible. That's what prayer and supplication is. That's what reflection is. That's why it's so important from a personal development standpoint to keep a journal, reflect. Okay. What you don't review, you will drift. The Bible says in Proverbs 27 and 33 says, be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. Okay. I've heard various people, billionaires talk, or people who have millions, multimillionaires talk about this. And it's important to know how much money you have, like to the cent. It's also important to know what condition your home is in, what your car is in, because it's a part of the review process, so that if something were to happen, right, if you needed to make a quick move, right, you know what you're dealing with. You know what you're working with. If somebody asks you, hey, a question about something, you know whether or not you can or not now. It also aligns you back to purpose. It opens your ears to change, right? It opens your ears to opportunities as well, because you've done the review process. Okay. So stewardship requires inspection. If you want to manage anything, you have to inspect it. Go look at it. Hey, man, is this valuable or not? That's part of the manager. That's part of the manager's role. That's part of the administrator's role. Is, hey, is this adding value to our time? Is this productive? Right? But we have to know the condition. Condition is another word for the work that the flock is doing. So your flock, your followers, you have to know if they're healthy. You have to know if they're not. You have to know what they need, right? Do they need water, right? Think about the condition of your plants. Anything that God puts you to manage over top of, you have to know where it is. God called Adam to name the animals, right? He asked Noah to build an ark, right? He asked, Noah had to understand the conditions that he, in the time that he was in. Every prophet was praying because the times were bad. My people have forsaken thee, O Lord, please don't smite them. Get rid of this oppression. And then the Lord comes down, right? Because the Lord knows the condition, right? So he meets the prophet and says, this is what I'm telling you. This is why this has happened. You need answers. Here's what it is. Here is the hope. Jesus Christ is coming, right? We see that all the time. We see it's riddled through the Old Testament, okay? But you have to know the condition of your flock. The flock is simply what God is giving you to take care of, okay? And be careful and give careful attention to your herds, okay? The herds are the multitude, and you have to pay attention to the people that are following you. And look at that. You have to also pay attention to who you are following, because a herd, how you manage a herd is not in front of it. You manage the herd from behind. Okay. So a true shepherd is one who follows and guides from behind the herd and the flock. It's about positioning yourself that way. And you have to inspect it. Get yourself in a position where you can see the flock and the herd and make sure you give it special attention. Oh, Sue over there, she doesn't look too good. She might be going through something. Let's schedule a meeting to talk to Sue. Okay? It starts with review. All right. Last point. Administration requires discipline. Whew. That D word, boy, gets to you. Emotion cannot be your manager of growth. You can't just move off of how you feel, right? Feelings can lead to falsehoods, right? So you have to have discipline, okay? Hebrews 12:11 said, no discipline seemed pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness. That means that discipline is not punishment. It ain't getting spanked. It's not capital punishment. No, it's not go sit in the corner and do this. Discipline is aligning yourself over time with purpose. Discipline is studying. Why do you call, when people are in school and in college and you've invested money into it, right? You've put money into it. That's why they call your major a discipline, a doctoral discipline, okay? Because it is painful, and plus, trust me, higher education professors make it painful. Yeah, I want a 6-page thesis done by tomorrow. Like, dang, okay. Whew. I want a 60-page dissertation document in my desk by the end of the semester. 60 pages. Woo, I'd never written 30 pages before. But I'm telling you, over time, it produces a harvest of righteousness. Credibility, right? You're learning through the pain. Okay? But we've learned to reframe pain in our minds. So we don't really see that as pain. We see that as growth. We see that as development. We see that as capacity building. Okay? All right. I'm almost done. Awareness has helped you see. Okay. So awareness is the spark. It helps you understand your vision. And this is how we move from change to stewardship, how we move from one concept of idea to the next. So if awareness helps you see, that means development helps you grow. So education help you understand. So what does administration help you with? It helps you to remain. So when we're becoming, administration helps us to remain. And when we remain, this is where the change becomes dependable. It becomes trustworthy in growth. So your growth becomes trustworthy. And this is where your leadership becomes sustainable. Okay? With what you steward, you could sustain. Whatever you steward, you could sustain. A man with little can be trusted with much, right? So this is where your leadership becomes sustainable, because the man with little develops the systems to sustain the bigger things, right? And it progresses incrementally. You don't just steward what you do not value. People, if they value, they show you what they value based on how they steward it. Okay. And you don't sustain what you don't structure. Okay. You don't steward what you do not value, and you don't sustain what you do not structure, what you don't put order into. You can't sustain it. So if you want change that lasts, if you want sustainable change, don't just pursue the transformation. Because we look at change, oh, I just want to do a transformation. Yeah, you physically lost 50 pounds, but can you sustain it? Don't pursue the transformation. Pursue the faithfulness of management. That's what you want to do. If you want to lose the 50 pounds, pursue the faithfulness of management. Being faithful to the system you've created in your life. As a personal trainer, that's what my goal was. I've seen way too many people backsliding. So my job was to teach you the principles for life that will help you develop this up and down, these ebbs and flows of weight. So fluctuation should only be 5 to 10 pounds, not 30 to 50. Okay. That's because you're fluctuating. Fluctuation happens. True weight gain is after 10 pounds. It could be water. It could be 5 to 10 pounds. Okay. So how do we faithfully manage? Okay. All right. I'm out of here. Okay. I hope this helps. Whoever's listening, all 48 of y'all. 48. Yay. So thank you all for watching this channel. Some view it, some don't. Some like the shorts. I mean, you guys enjoy the shorts. So if you want to maintain this grounded teaching on growth, leadership, and becoming, subscribe to my channel. Check me out. Press that button. Hit the notification button. I try to post every Saturday at 6. I have a system that I put in place so that I am more consistent. So again, this is Michael, aka Coach King. Make real change. Make change real. The process is beautiful. Empower your mentality. Make real change in the world. Peace out.